All right, let's talk about something that you literally cannot escape online. Positive affirmations. They're all over our feeds, they're in our wellness apps, and maybe, just maybe, they're part of your morning routine.
You've got one kind, right? This high energy, super motivational hype you see on TikTok. It's all about making you feel like a total powerhouse, ready to crush your goals. It's loud, it's proud, you know the vibe.
And then you've got the other side of the coin. These are the much calmer, more meditative affirmations, the kind you might whisper to yourself to find a little bit of peace, a little gratitude, and just set a gentler tone for the day. Which brings us to the big, flashing question. Is any of this actually doing something in our brains, or are we all just, wishful thinking? Well, that's what we're going to get into.
So, to figure out if affirmations actually work, we've got to understand what they're even trying to do in the first place. And it all comes down to that one conversation you have all day, every day, the one inside your own head.
So, what even is a positive affirmation? At its absolute core, it's just a statement you repeat to yourself. The whole idea is that with enough repetition, you can start to challenge and kind of elbow out those negative, unhelpful thoughts and replace them with something more positive. It's basically an attempt to rewire your own internal monologue.
And okay, this is where it gets really interesting, because there's a huge difference between what we see online and the actual psychological theory. Pop culture affirmations are like, I am successful, I am rich. But the science called self-affirmation theory is a little different. It's less about just feeling good and more about reminding yourself of your deep core values to protect your sense of self when it gets a little shaky.
And this whole thing, this whole battle, it all happens in one place, your self-talk. You know, that endless running commentary in your head, it can be your biggest cheerleader or your worst critic, and it really shapes how you see everything. Affirmations are meant to be a tool to help you grab the steering wheel. And let's be real, we all fall into these negative traps. The Mayo Clinic points out a few super common ones, like filtering, where you have a great day, but you only focus on the one tiny thing that went wrong. Or personalizing, where you automatically think something bad is your fault. And my personal favorite, catastrophizing, where a small mistake feels like the end of the world. These are the exact gremlins that affirmations are supposed to fight. So we know the goal is to shut down those negative patterns. But is there any cold hard evidence that this stuff actually works? Let's dive into the science. Okay, so according to the theory, we all have this fundamental drive to protect what's called our self-integrity. It's just a fancy way of saying we're wired to protect our core belief that, hey, I'm a good, decent, capable person. So when something threatens that, like criticism or failing at something, our defenses shoot up. An affirmation is supposed to work by reminding us of our bigger values, making that one specific threat feel a lot smaller. So, does it hold up in the lab? Researchers are definitely on it. A pretty recent study from 2024, published in the International Journal of Indian Psychology, decided to put a positive affirmation practice to the test. They looked at its impact on both self-esteem and overall psychological well-being. And the results are actually so fascinating. The study found that, yeah, there was a positive link to self-esteem, but it wasn't strong enough to be called statistically significant. But, and this is the important part, when they looked at overall psychological well-being, so things like your emotional strength and life satisfaction, the impact was significant. So maybe it's not just about feeling good about yourself in the moment, it's about building up your overall mental fortitude. Okay, now that we've peeked at the science, let's get down to business. If you want to give this a shot, how do you write an affirmation that your brain doesn't immediately dismiss as total nonsense? Well, there are a few simple rules of the road. First, start with I am. It makes it about your identity. Second, use the present tense, like it's already happening. Third, keep it focused on one thing. And honestly, the most important one, make it believable to you. If I am a world-famous author feels like a huge lie, maybe try I am learning to enjoy the process of writing. It has to be a small step forward, not a giant leap your brain will reject. In practice, this is really just about reframing. It's a simple switch. So instead of that thought, ugh, it's too complicated, you reframe it as, okay, I'm going to try to tackle this from a different angle. Instead of, I'm never going to get better at this, you try, all right, I'll give it another go. See that shift? It moves you from feeling stuck to feeling like there's a path forward. So writing the affirmations, that's one thing, but turning them into a habit, that's where the real magic happens. So how do you actually build a practice that sticks? Here's a helpful little framework, the 3 M's. First, movement. A quick walk, a little dance party, anything to boost your mood. Then, mindfulness. This is where you can meditate on or journal your affirmations. And finally, mastery, doing something that helps you grow, even something small. When you combine your affirmations with these other things, they become so much more powerful. Now, I know the biggest roadblock for so many of us is feeling like we're just too busy. But I love this quote from psychologist Dr. Amanda K. Darnley. She says, "Rest is not earned, it's a divine right." You can even create an affirmation for this. Something like, "I am worthy of rest," can be an incredibly powerful way to start prioritizing your own well-being. And finally, please be patient with yourself. Research shows it takes on average about 66 days for a new habit to become automatic. That's over 2 months. So just start small. One affirmation for 1 minute a day. Consistency is so much more important than trying to do it all at once. So, I'll just leave you with this question. Forget about "I am successful" for a second. Let's bring it back to the science. What is one core value you have? Maybe it's kindness, or curiosity, or just being a good friend. What's one value you can reflect on and affirm for yourself today? Because that might just be the most powerful affirmation there is.